The Alberta Court of Appeal. So a court of appeal, as it sounds, is a court that you go to is if you had a problem with a lower court. And something to keep in mind is a problem at a lower court isn't always that you've lost. In fact, many times we have clients that won, they're successful at a first level of court, but they wanted to appeal the judgment anyway because they thought maybe their damages weren't enough. The court acknowledged, yes, you win. Yes, the other person did you wrong. However, they're looking at the quantum, the dollar amounts that they got as a settlement. They thought they should get a lot more. Now, when can you go to the Court of Appeal? Actually, we're going to take a step back because more important is when you can't go to the Court of Appeal. And that's going to be in situations where you just feel you had a bad lawyer. If you had a bad lawyer, had bad representation, then that's not a time when you can go to the Court of Appeal. It's for errors of the court, the lower court that they've made. And it can be either an error of fact or an error in law. An error in law would be they just applied the law wrong, that they had everything in front of them in terms of the legal rationale for why you should win or why you should get more, and they either chose to ignore it, so they followed another law that wasn't appropriate. It can be any number of things, but it's law related. In terms of an error of the lower court of fact, it means maybe the judge didn't look at specific evidence that was put before the court, or they misinterpreted the evidence that was before the court. And in their rationale, their decision making, you can see that they've taken something, applied the evidence wrong, and then their result was wrong because the evidence was wrong. And again, that can be for whether you win and lose, or it can also be whether or not the amount of money, quantum you got. Maybe they misinterpreted the fact about, a car accident, your medical condition. And because of that, they gave you less money in terms of your reward outcome for the injuries you had, but the injuries that you actually had suggest you should get more. So those are the kind of things that you go to the Court of Appeal. It's not a random tool to be used lightly. It is something that you should hire a lawyer for, not represent yourself. It is a much higher standard and more difficult with more technical aspects that a person has to meet, or else you can lose your case. And if you lose, you're done unless you go to the Supreme Court, which becomes much, much, much harder. And the Supreme Court is reluctant to take just random kind of cases. There has to be a reason for them to be able to hear it. It is their choice to hear a case or not. Which courts can you appeal to? Well, quite frankly, you can appeal from any of the courts. It could be provincial court, it could be the Court of King's Bench, or it could even be from an administrative tribunal that's then gone on to other aspects of courts. So really, the reason doesn't matter why. You want to make sure that you talk to a lawyer and go over your options, spend that time deciding if it's appropriate or not to pursue it, because if it is, it might be really worthwhile for you to do.